guys all ready? Anybody not ready?
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Hammond. I'm the chairman of the Lee County Board of County Commissioners. I'm joined this morning by Commissioner Cecil Pendergrass and Commissioner Ray Sandelli. I'm also joined by our Sheriff Carmine Marcino, our County Manager Roger DeGillet, and our Emergency Operations Director Lee Mayfield. This morning, I want to announce that I will sign later today the declaration of a state of local emergency for Lee County. Based on the current forecasts, there is no question that Florida will be impacted by Hurricane Dorian. How it will affect Southwest Florida at this time remains uncertain. Rain is almost certain to come to our area, which means we could see the ground get saturated here in our area. We could see trees go down because of that. It's important to expect, if you live in an area that typically floods, we could see some localized flooding. Based on the work that the county has done over the last 2 years since Hurricane Irma to maintain our stormwater system, we believe that our tributaries and our flowways are open and in better shape now than they were 2 years ago. We do have our DOT crews, our Department of Transportation crews out there monitoring and clearing any blocked drains to make sure that the water does drain. Wind, it's really too early to tell what impacts we'll see from the wind, but we urge you to stay attuned to your local meteorologist to make sure that you're aware of what the storm is doing as it approaches our coast. Also storm surge, again, it's too early to tell if Lee County will experience any storm surge because of this. But the public should know that Lee County is well prepared. This is something we plan for year-round. Our team has a tremendous amount of experience with this, unfortunately, because of what we saw with Hurricane Irma 2 years ago. We have a fantastic plan in place. We learned some lessons from Irma that we will be happy to put in place for this storm. So we are prepared, and our message to you over this weekend is to enjoy your holiday weekend, but be watchful this weekend. Watch where the storm's going. Take some time this weekend to prepare. This time of year is always the time of year when we typically see hurricanes come. We're not out of hurricane season yet, so it's always a good idea to be prepared during this time of year for a hurricane. With more on our Emergency Operations Center activation, I'd like to introduce our County Manager, Roger DeGillet.
Good morning, everyone. So I'll just concentrate for the moment on actions that we're taking, but just to reiterate just a tiny bit of what Commissioner Hammond had to say. You know, this storm is an interesting one compared to Irma. Irma was a big, ugly Category 5 storm before it made its way into the Keys and then north through Florida. Everyone knows how large it was. This storm is really quite different. It's a much smaller storm, although it's fairly intense, and given the forecast guidance that we're receiving from the National Hurricane Center, we know that that storm has slowed down quite a bit. Will probably continue to slow down in its forward path, but that makes it a very uncertain path. We know that the East Coast is probably going to get hit pretty hard, likely with a Category 4 storm. Where it comes on shore is still a bit of a mystery, and so for us, it makes it even more uncertain. What we'll be watching for is when that storm makes a northerly turn. Where does that happen? Does it happen right along the coastline? Does it happen once it makes its way into the Gulf of Mexico? Or does it happen somewhere around the middle of the state? And depending on where that happens, that will dictate whether or not we have storm surges and how intense they might be. We do anticipate this to be based on, again, guidance from the Hurricane Center. This is a fairly long event. We're going to start seeing wind and rain probably on Sunday, tropical storm force winds. With rain that could be anywhere from 3 to 10 to 12 inches locally. It just really depends. So there's still a lot of uncertainty in this storm, other than we know Florida is going to take a direct hit on the East Coast. So the first question we get from a lot of folks are there shelters open yet, and where are they? So we've not made that decision yet on shelter opening. It's just a little too early to make that decision. We anticipate that sometime tomorrow, probably late, maybe into Sunday morning, we'll be making those decisions and announcement. It's important to know that if people go to our emergency management website, they will see an inventory of shelters. That does not mean that they're open. It is simply the inventory of shelters that could be made available if need be. The sheltering operation compared to Irma will likely be a much smaller operation, far fewer people that would require sheltering. With the first group being the most vulnerable, be the special needs shelters should that happen. Yard waste and recycling and trash pickup. Our landfill, which is in Henry County, is going to be open to the public until noon on Saturday, and then to the trash haulers until 6 p.m. on Saturday. We normally don't collect trash on Sunday. We will suspend pickup on Monday, and then we'll play it by ear and see how the storm goes after that. And it's suspended on Tuesday as well, so no trash pickup on Monday or Tuesday. We'll make that announcement probably sometime on Wednesday so that everyone knows what to expect. In the meantime, we're asking people, please do not put yard waste at the curb. It's probably not going to get picked up, and if we get high winds, we all know what happens with that yard waste. Some of it can become missiles and be very destructive. We continue to monitor the storm for our public transportation system, LETRAN. We will continue to provide fixed bus route and paratransit services until further notice. LETRAN will deliver updates regularly through the EOC and will notify the community accordingly. County offices are open today at all of our locations. Most all sites will be closed on Monday because of the holiday in any case. If there are additional closures beyond Monday, we'll make that announcement as soon as we can, but probably not until Monday sometime. The Tuesday is supposed to be a regularly scheduled meeting of the County Commission, and also our first public hearing for the budget for next year. It's a public hearing that's required by law. So far, we remain on schedule. We'll just have to see how the weather plays out to see whether or not we stay with that schedule or have to reschedule those meetings. So, again, as the Commissioner said, watch local media, watch the local meteorologists, listen to what they have to say about the storm. That's some of the best information that'll be available for you. And so we'll answer some questions in a few minutes, but I think I'd turn it back to the Commissioner for now.
Very good. Thank you. I'd like to announce that we will actually partially activate the Emergency Operations Center at 3:30 today. To explain what a partial activation is and what it looks like, I'd like to ask our Emergency Operations Director, Lee Mayfield, to join us now.
Good morning. As the Commissioner said, we will be ramping up the EOC partially this afternoon. We have great flexibility in how we do that. We'll probably be doing a lot of planning today, preparedness, kind of looking at the forecast and refining those decisions as we get more specific information in. That will be a limited activation this evening and this afternoon with select key agencies that will be involved in some of that initial planning, which we'll be talking about later in our Emergency Operations Center. So the theme again today is preparedness, planning. That's what we're doing here at the Emergency Operations Center. We also ask the public to be in that same mode of preparation and planning. The impacts, as we've heard, are still uncertain. We're getting better information as the week goes on, as the weekend goes on. All of our decisions from a protective action standpoint, so any evacuations, any sheltering operations, would be based on those forecasted impacts as we get more good data coming in from the National Weather Service and the Hurricane Center. So again, preparedness is our key word today. We're doing that here in the building, and we ask that the public continue to plan, prepare, review your hurricane kit with your family, review your hurricane plan if we were to implement any of those actions as we move forward in the coming days. So with that, I'll turn it back to the Commissioner.
All right, thank you, Lee. So just to reiterate too, our storm shelters are not open right now, and I want to say at this point, because we have time to prepare, that the storm shelters are always a shelter of last resort. As part of your hurricane plan, if you want to evacuate or plan to evacuate from your home, you should know where you're going. And if since we have a long weekend this weekend, it may be a good time. If this makes you uncomfortable, this storm coming, and you want to get out and you have the opportunity to get out of the state this weekend, then this may be the time to go ahead and do that. We will open those shelters and make those sheltering decisions if needed and as needed, but right now they are not open. We have had a tremendous partnership with law enforcement, including our Sheriff, Carmine Marcino, and at this time I'd like him to talk about the operations that the Sheriff is undertaking to prepare for this storm.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everybody. I know we're sending a lot of information your way, but most importantly, we want to stop and take a breath and realize that we're fortunate to have time on our side here. We have time. We are being proactive, and we're preparing. And your sheriff's office is absolutely fully prepared. We have staged different equipment and different personnel around this entire county, working with our county manager and our county commissioners, as you see already, to make sure at the press of a button that we can make everything happy, so you are going to be safe, and your sheriff's office is going to ensure of that. I do want to talk a little bit about the shelters. Obviously, everything is really early, and this is preliminary, but if shelters do open, we work with our partners, Cape Coral Police, Chief Newland, Chief Derek Diggs, Sanibel Island, and all our partners in law enforcement to make sure that our shelters are going to be manned with law enforcement. So, again, it's so early, but we're being proactive, we're being prepared, and that's most importantly. And I know that always comes up, there's questions about curfews. So right now, look, again, I keep saying it's early, and we're being proactive, and we're preparing. So that question is going to be too early, but I will tell you that if that time should arise, and if we need to implement a curfew, that it will be implemented and it will be enforced. Because again, the most important thing here is to understand that the citizens of this county are going to be safe. And as a sheriff, I absolutely will tell you that will happen. So again, you're getting a lot of information, but look around your house, be prepared, as the commissioner said, check your belongings, anything that can, debris that can fly around your house, be prepared. And together, we're going to get through this, because you got a team here that's really an amazing team, and we're around the clock here at 25/8. And I say 25/8 because I mean that. So thank you for your time today.
All right, thank you very much, Sheriff. So again, just to recap, later this morning I will sign a declaration of a state of local emergency following Governor DeSantis' lead. At 3:30 today, we will partially activate our Emergency Operations Center so that we can monitor this storm over the long weekend. Later today, we also will have the United Way 211 hotline activated. That will start at 3:30 today. That's a hotline where folks can call in and get more information on the storm, and we will work with our volunteers to answer any questions they have about storm preparation through that 211 United Way hotline. And the bottom line is today, be watchful this weekend. Because of the unpredictable nature of this storm, it's a good idea to use the long weekend to get prepared, to be ready, and to monitor what the weather is doing. And with that, we'll take your questions.
Commissioner, what does state of emergency mean?
So a state of local emergency basically allows us to waive the formalities and procedures that otherwise our political subdivision would have to be held to. It allows us to take whatever action is necessary to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the community.
What does that mean? What actions are you referring to?
Well, think about it. In the wake of a hurricane, you'll see debris down, you'll see traffic lights out, you'll see a lot of damage. This would give us the ability to purchase supplies that we would need or to take actions that we would need to protect the public. Yes, sir.
With so many unknown questions about the storm surge, can you say anything to the people that live on the beach? Should they be preparing differently?
You know, I think that's a good question for our Emergency Operations Director. Lee, why don't you take that one?
Sure, good question. The impacts that we prepared for these events, primarily wind, storm surge, and rainfall, are all still a little bit unknown right now. So again, it's too early for anybody to make those evacuation decisions, sheltering decisions yet. This is not, like we heard today in Irma, a landfalling event for us from the Gulf of Mexico. So the amount of all of these impacts would really depend on that direct track. So whether you live on a barrier island or inland right now, we're asking everyone to kind of stay informed, watch your local media, and all of those things will start to play out as we get better information. But for now, it's that preparedness posture, planning posture, wherever you live throughout Lee County.
Is the county prepared to open
some or all shelters, or how would a determination be made about what's open, when, and where?
Sure, all based on impacts, so depending on what the impacts would be. In Irma, for example, we opened a lot of shelters. We had a lot of folks taking that option because the evacuation zone was so large. So based on our evacuations, if we end up having those, that will kind of drive how many shelters we open and which ones we open. But again, at this point, we are in the initial stages of planning, coordinating that effort, but definitely no decisions yet because we don't have the information that would drive that at this time.
Given what we've learned from Irma and the track of this storm, what is the biggest concern right now facing us here?
I think, again, just the uncertainty in the forecast, and this is statewide. You know, all jurisdictions in the state of Florida are kind of preparing right now because they don't have that precise information. So, again, I go back to that wind threat, the possible water threat is just a little bit unknown right now, depending on what scenario we see.
And with school, can we expect cancellations?
I don't think we're quite there yet. That's a school district question. I'd look to maybe get offline with the school district on that. But those are things we consider with them here in the Emergency Operations Center as part of our activation process.
A traditional travel weekend, what are we hearing from RSW?
From RSW? Anything? Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, RSW is operating as normal, but I assume that as the winds pick up, if they do pick up, then the airlines will start to adjust based on the safety of the flights and the passengers.
What can you tell us about the gas and the water? It's been hard to find so far this morning.
Yeah.
Have you heard from the Walmarts and the gas stations that they're going to be stocking up?
What we can tell you is that we understand that local stores are working hard to restock their shelves over the weekend to make sure that they can meet the needs of the folks who are shopping for supplies. We also know that the ports are still open and fuel still has the ability to come in. A lot of the fuel that comes to our area comes from Port Manatee and Tampa as well. So it's on the other side of the state from the storm right now. Everything's open, and I know the gas stations are working on refueling as fast as possible. Okay, if there are no further questions, again, thank you very much for helping to keep the public informed, and we look forward to working with you throughout this. Thank you.